Welcome to I Heart Geek.
And welcome to another episode of I Heart Geek. Woo, we're going back to the 90s, kids. We are going to be talking about 90s TV. That includes sitcoms. That includes a lot of stuff. But let's be honest, there's a lot of sitcoms that we're going to be talking about today. Before I introduce the panel, today we are brought to you by hanging out at a coffee shop all day. Yeah, that's
you couldn't think of anything,
a thing. I couldn't think. I tried to think of a better one. But that's
that's awesome.
That's what they did in the 90s on TV anyway.
That's what some of us still like to do.
If there were still good coffee shops like that, but we'll get into that in a second. Right. Let me introduce the panel real quick. I'm Dub. I do stuff. I'm here with Courtney, and I'm here with Michelle, and I'm here with Skeeter. And this is a fun panel because we all lived through the 90s.
Buckle up, kids.
Yes, this is going to be a fun episode.
Some of us are stuck there.
Real quick.
Do you still wear my Vans, Michelle?
Yay.
Nothing wrong with that.
Boots,
I still have my Docs that I get worn at least once a week.
I have my Docs.
Minimum
like you
once
guys,
a week.
My footwear still reflects my 1990s Gen X girl mentality.
Excellent.
So real quick, before we get on with the show, if you're a supporter of the show, or even if you're not, go ahead and click on, if you're watching this on YouTube, click the like, hit the share. It helps us out so much. Go to our Patreon, get a ton of extra content, and check out our new clothing stuff. We have more coming out. So yay. I'm so excited about this.
Check the website. We have new merch.
www.iheartgeekshow.com. Use the com. We paid extra for it, and then click on the store link. And there is, I think right now, shop. We have 10 different designs, and there's going to be more. So yes, and more for the ladies and for the guys. And yeah, so much fun. The ladies. I'm a lady.
Ooh, she's a lady.
She's a lady.
This is going to be one of those episodes today. I can tell already. So we're talking the 90s on TV. Some of us had more lives than others, so we watched less TV. And some people like me didn't have a life, so we watched a lot of 90s TV. You guys can decide who that is on what. But so what I want to ask is, in your opinion, what are the defining characteristics of the 90s on TV? We did this with the 80s and 70s. Kind of, everyone had their definite own look and feel per decade. What was the look and feel of the 90s, if you could describe it?
Color.
Obviously the fashion. I mean, but that's for, you can say that about anything, but obviously the fashion, the 90s fashion from the beginning of the 90s, which was the best, and then on to the middle and the end, which was questionable, but definitely the fashion. I think like what I noticed too is a lot of the casts were younger. You're looking at like 20s, maybe early 30s, but everyone seemed to be it was like focused on that kind of younger, like edgy kind of, for the most part, group.
I think they had a lot of groups of friends, and yes, we're going to talk about Friends a lot, but that was kind of a characteristics of the 90s. It kind of went away from the family sitcom in the 90s. Mm-hmm. There was some, but not much. I mean, it was by far outweighed the different aspects of family, like the workplace family, your friends, and animation was another huge one in the 90s.
Yeah.
Hey, Beavis.
Yeah, that one will be mentioned a lot. I promise you on that one.
Great.
A lot of sci-fi and a lot of fantasy came out of the 90s too, television shows as well. In terms of what you're saying with family, I think the other interesting thing is even the family shows that they had, there was always a different dynamic to it. So like you had things like The Nanny, where it was a family, but you threw Fran Drescher in as the nanny, and that kind of mixed everything up and changed the dynamic. So you had stuff like that was So you still had your family shows, but there always was that
a little different.
Yeah, it was a different kind of family. It wasn't the nuclear family that we were used to in the 50s and the 60s, and even in the 80s. I mean, it started a little in the 80s, but it got more so in the 90s, I think.
Yeah, I think that's when we started noticing that transition where family, it did, like you said, it got away from that the nuclear family, and it became, because our generation was embracing the other aspect of family, the friends and the, all that other stuff, and made it, more prominent. I shouldn't say more prominent, but we brought it out, I guess, into the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I feel like maybe it did go a little too far into that. I don't know that we're doing a 2000s one, so I'm going to say this a little bit, but like the stuff in the 2000s kind of corrected a little bit, because they were able to do that different family feel, but still have definite family stuff in this 2000s, along with the Friends movements, things like Modern Family, stuff like that. I think that it kind of course corrected. I think 90s went a little overboard on, no, we don't want anything with mom and dad and father knows best. Okay, cool. I think there is a balance to them both. And I think that the 90s was definitely a course correction from the 80s.
It was like a rebellion, right?
Yeah, it was. It was definitely was.
I mean, the
in so many ways.
definition of the word family changed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because a family is not just a mom and dad and some kids, and I mean, I think in the 90s into the 2000s, like you said, we were starting to see that kind of stuff on TV now.
Yeah.
Whereas before, because I mean, the other thing is like you can have families with your friends as well. And so, I mean, the 90s helped kind of show the average TV goer that the definition of family isn't just one thing. It's all of these different things.
I think what changed it for the biggest part was this was MTV's heyday. This was MTV really, like, that started to change the whole thing. So what happened? We started to get the change in our fashion brought on by
corporations. Told us what was cool. Yeah,
because what was cool, sports was changing, animation changed completely. We went from this wholesome, good, Bugs Bunny and Tweety show to
Ren and Stimpy,
Beavis and Butthead, Ren and Stimpy, Doug. You had all of these different types of animation. Nickelodeon exploded from slime and all of it to this whole different era of craziness. So
now another thing that I want to hit on as far as something that the 90s had that we didn't get before that was the specialization of TV. And you brought that up with the Nickelodeon, the slime, that was TV for kids. We didn't have that before. And then we had the Cartoon Network, which had different animations. We had the gross out stuff that was on Nickelodeon. We had MTV when that still was just music. And it was the definite thing.
TRL.
But it did have the specialized TV. We didn't have that before because this was cable, and this was, the generation of, I want to watch what I want to watch, and I don't want to look for everyone else's point of view, which kind of ruined things a little bit. Come to think of it now, I mean, there's definite positive aspects to it, but it definitely kind of ruined things a little bit, and I didn't even think about it till right now, actually.
I wouldn't say it ruined things, but that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah. We went from the TV novella or soap operas to the real world,
we still had those though. We still had those because we had things like 90210, like Dub mentioned, which was basically a soap opera for kids.
It was specialized TV.
Because I loved that show.
It was geared towards us. Like, we're gonna get
teens,
we're gonna get these guys. And like, also what I thought of too is we're going back to the animation. we watched the beginning of, computers becoming a thing and becoming a household item. And I think the animation followed because you're having all these advances and what they could do with it, as well. So we kind of got to watch that aspect of it too. That was kind of cool.
Now, one last thing before we start getting onto the other stuff is the only good reality TV came from the 90s. And there was 3 seasons of great reality TV and all the rest has been terrible. Fight me. Go ahead. Send me the evil email that tells me why the reality TV is a good thing. The first 3 seasons of Real World, however, I think because it didn't have the rules and it wasn't just a derivative of itself. I think the first 3 seasons of Real World was great. And I think it was the TV social experiment that worked. I think those 3 seasons worked, and I think everything after that it became so contrived and scripted reality. But I think those first 3 seasons were fantastic, and and I wish they would have stopped then because I think we would all have fond memories of reality TV instead of reality TV. That's like the bane of TV now, isn't it?
Well, it was, and I know it's the real world. It was real, like in the beginning. And I think that's all I watched was maybe the first 2 or 3 seasons. And then it did start to feel like, oh, this is just,
well, then they discovered we can put a hot tub in there. Oh, everyone's in bikinis now.
Yeah. So then it just became like, come on, really? But like the beginning, that's what it was. It was real. It was just watching these people do something that really hadn't been done before. And we were watching people that were around our age group, doing this and thinking, oh, I would totally do that, and so, yeah, I agree. Probably the first few seasons, and then it should have just went away.
Well, I remember the advertising. It came on after 90210, and the commercial said, after you get to see the fantasy of 90210, let's see what the real world is like. And I thought that was very brilliant advertising.
On MTV.
I know, but that's how they advertised it. It came on after it.
90210 was on Fox 5.
Yes, I know that.
Oh. Yeah, they knew Fox that. Yeah, they were.
Vegas, sorry.
But no, but they advertised it afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, they assumed that we would all be watching.
I don't remember that because I wasn't allowed to watch The Real World.
Oh, you had good parents.
We weren't really supposed to watch MTV if it wasn't music videos.
Oh.
Wow.
But I mean, eventually we were supposed to, and we used to do it anyways. But yeah, we weren't supposed to watch things like Beavis and Butthead, and we were Real World. We were only it was only if they were allowed to, if there was music videos on, then we were allowed to. Like TRL,
I was watching TRL. I was watching Nightmare on Elm Street. And
no, we were watching that stuff, but if there was some reason for the MTV just rubbed my mom the wrong way.
Yeah.
And she's like, no.
And then the reality TV, well, the real world in general is what put the nail in the coffin for MTV. It's not relevant anymore.
It's not music TV anymore.
It hasn't been for a lot of years. And this is when I get to feel old and complain about it. But honestly, it sucks now. It's a bunch of kids that will do anything for their 15 minutes of fame, and that's
I used to watch Kurt Loder give music news. Y'all remember Kurt Loder?
Yep, this is where we learned that Kurt Cobain died. He's the one that broke the news.
It's like 24-hour TikTok videos or something, and VH1's no better. Like all of them just sort of sold out and became whatever they are now. I don't even care, but yeah. I'm a little.
It's 24 hours of ridiculousness with whatever the guy's name is.
While we are on the subject of music, this decade was the first to really use the soundtrack as a storytelling device. Which shows do you think had some of the best soundtracks? And well, I mean, let's hit the elephant in the room. The first one is Friends. I mean, Friends is probably on most of our Spotify lists because it just had such a great soundtrack. Everything that was U2 was on there and everything. You guys did not like that one.
It is not on my Spotify.
Oh, that makes me sad.
Spotify list. Friends isn't even on my watch list.
Really? Oh, you guys are breaking my heart right now.
I just never got into it.
But
I have a picture on the couch. Me and my son, me and the family have a picture on the couch at Warner Brothers on the old set. But like, I wasn't super, super into it. There was a few episodes, yeah, but not like a diehard.
Nope.
Yeah, I watched it for a little while. I remember, sitting in my room and watching it, but I don't think I followed the whole thing. But the music, I mean, I get it. They did use a lot of good, mainstream kind of stuff.
Yeah, no one was doing that before that. Yeah. As far as sitcoms go.
Yeah. And it's funny because I actually was looking at like some of the bands that they had on there, and I have this list, but and some of it I totally forgot about, like REM and Toad the Wet Sprocket.
That was totally that era.
Hootie and the Blowfish, like who doesn't miss
I wanna be with you.
I like that song to this day. Now. Don't care what anyone says. I know, and I'm like, Darius.
The lead singer of Hootie and the Blowfish, Darius Rucker, is now a big old country singer now.
Yep. Yeah. He's actually a really talented dude.
He really is. There's a couple Hootie and the Blowfish songs that I will never get over in my life.
Blues Traveler.
Oh, Blues Traveler. Four Non-Blondes.
We've moved away, Dub. You've
Four Non-Blondes.
veered off the track here.
That's okay. That's completely okay. Some of the other TV shows that I thought of from this era that had really great soundtracks. Drew Carey was a big one.
Yeah.
And then when
they did their yearly
musical episode
version. They had to be one of the first. They had to be one of the first TV shows, sitcoms that did a musical episode all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Am I wrong in that? I feel like
I don't remember. I can't recall anybody else doing it before them.
Well, and I think it all started with their I mean, first off, they did the musical number for the opening number all the time.
Yeah.
But
they did the Rocky Horror Picture Show
with their Rocky Horror number.
Yeah.
When they did the Rocky Horror Picture Show versus Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. And listeners, if you've not seen this,
you should watch it on YouTube.
It's amazing. Craig Ferguson in full drag. Full Priscilla, the Queen of the Desert drag. Just throwing that out there.
Go ahead.
Another one I thought of was My So-Called Life. I mean, it's actually
Ramones
on it's actually on one of my lists, but it was like one season, but I loved it. But yeah, they had Sonic Youth, Lemonheads, Buffalo Tom. Yeah, so they actually took a lot of music from
grunge.
Yeah. So of course I like it. yeah. But so that was another one. What else? Sorry, I had totally
a big one is Beavis and Butthead. That's going to get mentioned a lot, but that really, I think that show introduced Middle America to a lot of really cool music. My first time that I ever heard Primus was from Beavis and Butthead. I mean, and that's
I remember the time Cher was on Beavis and Butthead. That was amazing.
But they did run the gamut. They did run everything.
Right, you got Cher on there with you.
Yeah.
But they literally did run everything, and I thought that was a great introduction point, because if you didn't like whatever music, hang around for 3 minutes and it's going to get to the next one.
Yeah.
And it was what we were all doing anyway. Me and Skeeter are sitting on the couch making fun of videos. I'm like, hey, this is who we are, guys. It's bad when they're the role models. Another big one with the soundtrack and with the 90s in general, they seem to have a penchant for nostalgia for the 70s. I don't know why the 70s was suddenly big in the 90s, but like and the 60s as well. But let's
I think it's more the 60s.
Well, the Wonder Years, that 70s show, all that, which by the way both had great soundtracks.
Mm-hmm.
That was and then they did that 80s show, which was terrible. But the nostalgia factor was
on that 70s show.
But the nostalgia factor was so huge for the 90s. And that's something that actually always irritated me a little bit, because I remember hearing this when I was a teenager, because the 90s was important to me. And I remember my parents saying, oh, well, all this nostalgia stuff that we have to glom onto older generations because your generation doesn't have anything. Like, wow, that sucks. But that's something that always stuck with me a little bit. And I'm like,
But that's so not true for those of us who lived it and know what we had. And so yeah, like we know better. We know what we had. But I think looking at those shows, every generation seems to kind of look back, don't they? And
they
like
do.
I noticed like what was it like? So kind of grunge, unfortunately was sort of phasing out, and I did notice like a lot of the fashion, like the 70s, 60s kind of fashion was, trying to come back in and all that. So I think that attraction to those shows, I don't know what it is, but the 90s, like our generation loves nostalgia. So really not that shocking.
I think it did though. But if you look at some of the shows that tried to get this resurgence. So like, look at what was in the 80s. Like we had, all of the hospital shows, the crime shows were getting bigger. A lot of
procedurals, yeah.
So we had the procedural stuff. We got the Law and Order, SVU. Like that was more towards the end of the 90s, but like you had ER. ER was huge. So we had this hospital show. But then they were like, okay, how can we bring back that mid 40s, 30s generation that was used to the cowboys and stuff? So what was the Briscoe County
Junior?
So they tried to bring back these Western type shows and
young riders,
and things like that.
Wasn't that Walker Texas Ranger show?
Walker Texas Ranger
lasted for like 1,000 years. Yeah,
I mean,
and they've rebooted it.
Yay!
But they also tried to pay attention to our generation, us kids, with trying to keep grunge on the forefront and doing all of that. I mean, we were rocking it was such a eclectic blend, like right in that time period, because you had Yo MTV Raps versus
120 minutes.
120 minutes, and so one day you rolled into school wearing freaking Rockaware or whatever. The next day you came in wearing a flannel tied around your waist with Holy jeans and a freaking Metallica t-shirt. Like
that's me every day.
There was nothing ever the same, which was cool. That's why I love the 90s, because it was just a perfect blend. And I don't know, it was right.
Nice. Okay,
So
let's jump into our listener feedback real quick.
And now, let's see what all of our geek rock stars have to say.
Okay, so for our listener feedback today, we asked our listeners, what is your favorite TV show from the 90s and why? And Courtney's back. You got to read it. Yay.
Yay, he makes me do this.
I do.
He makes
I absolutely do.
Okay, so you know the rules, kids. If I don't read you on the air, it's just because I ran out of time because I'm that person. But I would thank everybody for all their great listener feedback. Some of you are amazing because you put on tons and tons of reasons of why, and some of you just put the name of the show. So guess what? You're not getting read. Next.
Hey,
so
vicious.
harsh, right? It's the 90s. Deal with it. Kimberly Romine said, since she already said The Simpsons, but I didn't get to actually read it in the 80s because it's a 90s show. So I won't be able to explain why, but she did say The Simpsons earlier. She said she's probably going to have to go with Home Improvement. Great family show that is actually funny. And now her kids like to watch it sometimes as well. And she still laughs at most of the jokes. Nicole Smith said Seventh Heaven was an aspirational family, while Roseanne was much more like reality. I like that answer, Nicole. That's a really good one. Michelle, I'm not reading yours because you're sitting right below me. Danielle Ariana, who is a 90s baby, and personally, she said, Dub, what a terrible question.
She says that to me every week.
Possibly pick one. She does. She said she was at a different stage of her childhood throughout the decade and liked multiple shows, and they changed as she got older throughout the decade. I like that answer. Way to not answer at the same time, Danielle. I really dig that about you. Our good friend Tyler Romine says Power Rangers, X-Men, and Home Improvement. Of course he says Power Rangers. Really, Tyler? Power Rangers and X-Men gave him a reason to come flying out of his bedroom in the morning as a kid for fear of missing this week's exciting new events and stories. Home Improvement. I feel like I'm sensing a family theme with that one, you two. Home Improvement was that show where the whole family could sit down, decompress, and laugh together because it was simply wholesome entertainment. And our very own Christina, the Cheeky Cheese, said she has two favorites, Quantum Leap and Sliders. Quantum Leap was about a time-traveling device that had delight, oh Jesus, that had me on the edge of my seat every episode. And Sliders explored, you know what, I'm done. I can't read anymore, apparently. Thanks, everybody, for all your great listener feedback. And I'm really sorry I fumbled it all with my mush mouth. So keep it coming.
You know, I do have a question.
We're very professional here.
Why does Quantum Leap always feel more 80s than 90s to me? Or is that just me?
No, I agree.
I didn't even put it on my list. It was a great show, but it feels so 80s. And I don't know why that is. It might have just been on the cusp between the 80s and the 90s, so maybe it still had the kind of 80s shots.
It was the actors.
Because it started in 89.
Okay.
Okay.
So in your brain, it's probably you equate it with that, which is funny because a couple of years on your top 5 started in the 80s.
Oh
too.
yeah, but they were mostly in the 90s, so on mine. So I want to ask you this question: what 90s movies would have made great TV shows? I want to say this one first, and this because this is a disappointment. They actually did a pilot for Clerks, which would have been on my list, and it was, if you can watch it on YouTube, it's the worst pilot I've ever seen in my life. It was terrible. It had nothing to do with the movie.
The Wonder Woman they did you?
Oh, that's pretty bad. Yeah. There's some.
That might be the worst pilot I've ever seen.
But what 90s movies would you have liked to have seen as TV shows? Go ahead, Michelle. You're about to pop.
Singles. Absolutely Singles.
Why? No. I think it was a good movie. I don't know how you do that.
So it would be okay. Just work with me.
I'll bear with you.
So
okay.
It would absolutely have to be set in Seattle, filmed in Seattle, everything. Like I would want it, in the 90s grunge, heyday. But so when you look at the movie and, all these singles are living in this, apartment complex, so they're all kind of connected to it. So either you could follow all these people, obviously different people throughout their dating and relationship experiences in the early 90s in Seattle. It could be like the same cast, or you could do like different people, featured, but I think that would be kind of cool.
Nice. I want to throw in Pump Up the Volume because I always throw that one in whenever I can. It's one of my favorite movies ever.
That'd be good.
I think that you could have done a serious hour-long TV show, kind of along all Freaks and Geeks.
Yeah.
Would have been absolutely a fantastic television show. A comedy, but you would have to have in Mike Myers would be So I Married an Axe Murderer would be so good as a weekly sitcom.
How would you do a weekly sitcom with that?
I mean, you have to, of course, you lose the axe murder thing. You still have the sister there, whatever, but you have you don't watch that movie for the intrigue of did he actually marry an axe murderer? It's for the quirkiness of the whole movie, and that's just, I feel like it should have been a sitcom. And then there's a nostalgia one, which Skeeter will love this one, The Book of Love. Should have been. If you guys have never seen this movie, by the way, you should watch this.
He just blew Skeeter's mind.
He's often.
This movie should have been a sitcom, and it's one of the most underrated movies I've ever seen, and you should watch this one if you ever get a chance.
Yes.
Skeeter, you got any movies?
Oh my gosh! So, like driving through the 90s with all of the movies. I mean, I was like, what did they come out with, or what did they try to come out with? And I remember. Like Clueless, they tried to do a thing.
They did a sitcom on that.
It didn't last very long.
It wasn't
like what did they not? So like traveling this list, I mean, I just it's hard to say. Like what do we look for in a sitcom? You know, are we looking for comedy? Are we looking for kind of a blend with some seriousness? It's hard to say, but I liked, oh my goodness, trying to think of one. Come back to me.
That was a whole lot of driving around for nothing. That was amazing.
I'm sorry. There's so many things in my head. Like I'm standing.
He went all the way
set.
to CV and back. I'm just saying.
Actually, you know what? No, I think I got one. I think because there were so many, I think if you do the cast right, I think Friday, like just because it was around. You know, like
it has to be on. And it would have had to have been on HBO though.
It would have had to been on HBO or Showtime, one of those, pay channels. But I think they really could have done Friday, like just made it this powerful sitcom.
That's pretty good. Courtney, you got any for us?
Nope.
You're not going to go drive us around the block and then just leave us somewhere.
See, with the exception of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I have never seen a movie turned into a TV show that's worked. And so I'm
jaded.
kind of a weirdo. No, I'm kind of a weirdo and kind of, I guess, biased. I don't, if it's a movie, leave it if it's a movie. If it's a TV show, leave it a TV show.
That's fair.
I have two more.
That's how I
fire away.
So I came up with Casino. I think that would be kind of cool.
That was on my list.
That was just called Vegas.
Yeah, that was called Vegas.
That already happened.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it could be done. I don't know. I think it'd be a little bit different.
Actually, it was. It was called Sopranos.
No, because
it's different
without casinos.
Like the Vegas.
That's kind of the point.
Go get in your car and drive around the block a couple times. Oh, so my other.
Sorry, I'm only 2 drinks in.
Wow, and it's only 7:30. Awesome,
wow, it's
guys.
early. My other one was Shawshank Redemption. Like, I love that movie,
dude,
and I think it would be.
Are you in my head right now? That's crazy.
That would be the darkest sitcom ever.
I know. Right? So this is where
one of the greatest movies ever.
No, this is where my brain goes, because I'm not like, I don't know. My brain goes towards more like, I like the crime dramas, and I like.
I'd be down for Casino though, because I love that.
That's on my list.
Anything that has to do with Vegas.
I think it could be done very well, where it would not be a Sopranos. All that. I think it could be done very well if you rewatch that movie and just kind of think about it.
I watched that movie at least once a month.
The TV show Vegas, there was only a season of it. Right, me too. The TV show Vegas, there's been several that have been named Vegas, but the most recent one had Dennis Quaid in it and Michael Chiklis, and it's kind of sort of around the same time period that Casino was taking place, but it's more from the point of view of the law enforcement at the time, because Dennis Quaid plays Sheriff Ralph Lamb.
No, you want the bad guys.
It only lasted one season. Huh?
Yeah, I want that. I want the gritty stuff. I don't want to watch
the usual suspects.
For all intents and purposes, this is going to piss some people off, but Ralph Lamb was not as good of a person as the TV show made him out to be.
How about Pulp Fiction as a TV show?
No.
Wow.
Yes, I am in.
I can
see put Tarantino on TV,
but I can see the appeal. But I think Pulp Fiction needs to just be left alone as the treasure.
It was pretty perfect.
It is.
You can't.
We do need to do that episode one of these days. We've never done it. We should, but yeah.
Yeah, no.
Nobody puts Baby in the corner. Tarantino can't be on
TV. That's the most perfect way of saying it. Yeah.
That's amazing. So let's move on to our main event.
Now it's time for the main event.
Okay, so for today's main event, we are discussing our top 5 shows of the 90s era. So we will have honorable mentions between 2 and 1, so hold on to your seats.
Serious?
Oh, yeah, because there's a lot.
I got to cut down some stuff.
Okay, so for my number 5, something that we've mentioned 100 times already, and that is Beavis and Butthead. Now, I want to say these are not necessarily for everybody, but this is my list of my shows that were important to me in the 90s. There was just something about that show that just spoke to me. I know it's silly, it's cheesy, it's stupid. There's something about it that just resonates still to this day.
Should we be worried about that? Or
no, I played a lot of frog baseball. No, I didn't.
No, I didn't.
But there was something about that show that was so important to me that's like when I felt like I'm kind of making my own decisions on what I watch at this point. And Beavis and Butthead was one of those shows. It's like, this is my decision to watch and nobody else's. And it's one of those shows that you definitely evangelized. You told everybody about the show when you discovered it. If you were a guy of between 13 and 16, I think.
Yeah, because I remember in school it was like the topic.
Everybody
did that all the time.
That
we weren't allowed to watch it.
I think it was a lot more of a guy show than a girl show. I don't know a whole lot of girls that loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it.
I watched it at certain times in my life that we can't discuss on the show because it was late at night, and but I don't know. Like, I have so many issues with that kind of. I don't find it as funny as maybe a lot of guys did, but it was
definitely for the guys. I mean,
yeah.
Okay, so let's go with Skeeter. Let's take the long walk around.
Getting in the car.
I'm going Mike Judge as well, but my number 5 will be King of the Hill.
Nice.
I love King of the Hill.
How do you guys feel about the reboot coming?
I don't even want to talk.
I don't want it to happen.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
It's happening.
Bobby's grown up and got kids now. All his friends are standing out on the thing.
He's a prop comic.
Does anybody really believe that he got married to a girl anyway?
He might have, but it wasn't.
He could get married either way. He wasn't a bad kid.
No, I didn't say he was a bad kid.
Yeah,
Joseph would have just taken every girl he dated. Hey, it's one of those things.
It happens. Stop it.
My favorite episode to this day is when they had Snoop Dogg on as
vanilla or mayonnaise.
Alabaster Jones.
That's what it was. Yeah.
the pimp from the OKC. That was freaking brilliant.
This is another show we need to do a whole show on because there's so much to this. Well, and it was so well written and so arc heavy. I loved it.
And I mean, I work for the natural gas utility, but we make King of the Hill joke. We don't sell propane. We don't do anything with propane. We still, all of us, like, you can tell which one of us are nerds that watch King of the Hill because we all constantly make King of the Hill jokes.
Do you play the video game Propane?
Would we do like we did a conversion, like when the technicians go out and do conversions from propane to natural gas, they're always calling in going, I sell propane and propane accessories.
Right. If my grades are good enough.
Right. It was just
wow.
Okay, Michelle, go ahead. What is your number 5?
I mean, it's boring. See, again, I follow you guys and I'm like, everyone's like, oh, Michelle, Law and Order.
I love Law and Order.
Yeah, I like Law and Order, the SVU, all of it.
And they all came out in the 90s.
Yeah, and I'm super into the crime dramas. I like it. I'm a law person in my career, so I don't know. And yes, it's TV, and most of it I'm like, yeah, that wouldn't happen. But I don't know. I still like it. Yeah, I still like it. I could just sit and watch, and I've done that before. So
fair enough.
But yeah.
Courtney?
Okay, so it started in the 80s, but it went through the 90s, so you guys have to give me a pass. It's the Golden Girls.
Yeah. Thank you for
Aw.
being a friend. Yeah.
I love the Golden Girls. And as I've gotten older, I've discovered that I'm probably Rose.
Yeah. I can't argue with you.
I would like to think that I'm a Dorothy, but I'm Rose.
I'm not
There's
even gonna say
nothing
which
wrong
one.
with that.
Yeah.
I don't, that show is just bizarre on how much it's remembered. I mean, it's a bunch of old ladies, and we still
It's
love
still
this
on
show.
TV, and
Yeah,
it's still on syndication.
Yeah, it's a show that I love, but I could not, for the life of me, tell you why.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, I like some of the jokes, but it's that's just me. I don't know why I love it, but I do. It's an interesting spot. Okay, so my number 4 was Who's the Boss? Loved it. Yeah, I mean, I grew up with those kids watching that show. Mona, yes. And who didn't think Tony was the coolest guy in the world?
I knew I wanted to be Alyssa Milano. I was like, I want to be like Alyssa Milano.
Well, I know all the teenage boys were definitely watching Alyssa Milano.
Yeah.
Or most of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so Skeeter, what is your number 4, sir?
My number 4, although sketch comedy was strong on NBC with that other show in the 90s, probably the best era for Saturday Night Live ever, but I loved In Living Color.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jim Carrey when he was still brilliant.
Yes. The Wayans brothers hit the nail on the head. Great stuff. A lot of beginnings for a lot of amazing comics today, especially Jim Carrey. I mean, you just had a mix of good people, released some amazing musical acts.
Yeah.
I mean, you had J-Lo was a dancer on there after her days as a Laker girl. I mean, things were coming.
She was a fly girl.
Yep, she was a fly girl, and
so was Rosie Perez.
Show. Yeah, so was Rosie Perez. Great show, loved it.
Nice. Michelle, what's your number 4?
Daria.
No, you want to really ruin it? Go to IMDb and look at what was his name? The male lead that she was Trent. Go look at who Trent is. It'll kind of ruin the show for you.
Why do you want to ruin my things?
Because it's funny.
It's Dub's thing. That's what
That's what Dub does.
He's like, yeah, that's great. Let me just really mess it up for you.
No, it's I believe it was Brian Posehn that played him. And if you've seen Brian Posehn, it's like, wow. That does not.
I know you love this, but here's this dead body.
No, I love Daria. I like Daria. I put them in the same category as Beavis and Butthead. That was the girls' version of Beavis and Butthead. I loved it.
I don't know why I try.
I'm sorry, I'm mature. Jeez.
I know. I loved her because me, like she's smart, she's very intelligent, she's cynical, she's sarcastic. She's not like one of the, popular girls. And I don't know, like I related to her huge, and I probably still do, but I wasn't always, and I still am not into a lot of animation. But that one I really liked.
Fair enough. Courtney?
The flashy girl from Flushing's The Nanny Named Fran. I love The Nanny. I still love The Nanny.
I cannot handle that.
I love it. I don't know what it is. Fran Drescher makes me laugh so hard. Especially, I mean, because she's got that Lucille Ball sensibility in her comedic timing. Because, I mean, here's this beautiful woman, then she's got that voice, but then she's always doing stupid things like falling in puddles and just making a giant fool of herself. And it's hilarious. It just makes me laugh. I love it.
It's that very rich New York sitcom. It had definitely its own flavor to it. I enjoyed watching it, but I watched that one after it was over, not during. So I don't know if that's a thing or not, but it definitely has its own flavor to it, and I liked it.
it's like a classic I Love Lucy kind of sitcom is what it is. And I loved it. I thought it was hilarious.
Okay, number 3, and I am cheating because I'm doing 2 of them because I just wanted both of these. I picked The Wonder Years and Drew Carey, and I picked them because they have nothing to do with each other, but they're definitely, I think they were the Wednesday night ABC. I liked the both of those shows, and I wanted to give both of them a spot. And let's be honest, we've talked about both of them already. And
so here's my question to you. How do you feel about the Wonder Years reboot that's happening?
I am not pleased.
I am friends with the former showrunner of the original one. Mm-hmm. He's perfectly fine with it. He thinks it's a great idea.
Great.
But
make that more money.
It's way different than
I don't have an issue with doing something. I have an issue with the same name. Give it another name.
Wait, is it Gus? Is that the reboot from?
No, it's actually going to be called the.
No, it's got to be called The Wonder Years.
No,
and that's where I honestly, and that's where I always hold issue is when they use the same name. You know, they built a great piece of my youth growing up on that name. They don't get to use that name. Use a different name, and then I'll probably love it. But I'm gonna definitely have a sour taste in my mouth with the name. Yeah. That's just me, and this is something I've said for almost every show that's done this. I don't like it when they do that.
Dule Hill is the dad. That's Gus from Psych.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
No, I think it'll be good, but I already have too much prejudice against it because of the name. That's just me. Yeah. Skeeter, what is your number 3?
Well, you jumped in my Kool-Aid.
Get back in the car again.
Oh boy.
You jumped in my Kool-Aid with the Wonder Years because I had the duplicate 3 because I couldn't fit it into the top. But Home Improvement and the Wonder Years, I'm going to go along that ride with you. Wonder Years, if you're a dude and you didn't want the relationship of Winnie Cooper and Kevin Arnold, and you didn't try to woo girls the way Kevin Arnold and Winnie Cooper
and fail just like he did constantly,
just friend zone, or you're too good of a guy. But I will open that wound. But
okay, I do not want any more therapy. Keep going. Okay.
Home Improvement, like, dude, what? How not a better show? Like, from Wilson to
the kids
to the
Jill,
family.
Yeah,
Jill. It was awesome. Loved it. Next,
Michelle, what is your number 3?
I'm gonna pull something that started in 88, but it went through 96. So y'all can just let me do it. Mystery Science Theater 3000. I don't know if anybody watched that. I spent a lot of time watching that.
Do you want me to ruin this for you? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking.
You know what?
I'm just kidding.
Here comes Dump with the dead body again.
And I'm going to kick a puppy and... God.
Just because it was Beavis and Butthead with robots. It's okay.
Attacked.
Nothing but love for everybody on this show. It's all good.
Just carry on. I'll just sit here.
Triggered. Is that a word?
It's like the story of my life. Yeah, that's great, Michelle. However,
I could not have set that up any better. Wow, that was amazing.
And it's ruined. So anyway, yeah. Such a cult following. I was introduced to this by some random friends, and at first I was like, "This is stupid," but then you're like, "No, this is actually really great." So, yes. Watch it if you're young or if you're doing other things, and not Dub. Don't tell Dub that you watched it because he will ruin it.
Just because it's exactly like Beavis and Butthead does not mean that I'm ruining it.
Exactly like.
Oh
God. Courtney, would you like to go now?
Man.
Save me, please.
I don't even know if I can follow that. So I'm just going to say my number 3 is Sequest DSV. And yes, there was a dolphin on the submarine.
Yeah.
It's like Star Trek Underwater. The first season was good. The second season was okay. The third season was the second season they jumped the shark. The third season got
Literally?
better, but it was they played this season out of order.
I hated when they
And
did
unfortunately, it's one of those situations where one of the characters died at a certain point, but because they played it out of order, he kept coming back to life. And so, but yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, my number 2, I just switched it. It was Friends, but we've given Friends enough love today.
Do you want me to ruin it for you?
Yeah,
Friends?
that show sucked.
Yeah, Friends is actually just a ripoff of Living Single.
That's fine. But I actually took that off my list, and just love how I can just keep going on it. So instead, I put on Saved by the Bell. Yes, it started in the late 80s, but
Saved by the Bell.
Just the cheesiest, most horrible show that we all loved.
Zach Morris is a jerk.
Zach Morris sucks.
Yeah, is that what it is? I can't remember.
Friends forever.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I'm so excited. I'm
my
gonna
caffeine
be
pills.
Showgirl.
And wow.
I went there.
Dark on that.
I went there.
Skeeter, what is your number 2, sir?
And I broke Michelle.
Is it a coincidence that you went number 2 with Saved by the Bell?
A little bit.
Oh.
I wish I would have thought of that beforehand. I would have used that.
So I know this is on no one's list at all, but one of the coolest shows, and it didn't get the props it deserved, but Parker Lewis Can't Lose. It was cool. Dude was just cool. And it was really short, right at the mid 90s era, one season, but it was good. Yeah.
That one it could have been a lot better, but it had the curse of the moving slot. Mm-hmm. That was a big thing in the 90s. They move stuff around constantly.
Fox just couldn't get it right with getting a good night, but they had to contend with TGIF, with ABC's Wednesday night lineup, with NBC and all their crime stuff, and ER Cosby. And Friends and Cosby. You were hosed. You had 3 power shows from Fox in that era, and 4 because Married with Children, but Married with Children was coming to a halt, and you tried to stack all these other ones. So you had Simpsons, and we won't even jump in that ride.
Michelle, what is your number 2?
You're gonna ruin it?
Probably. Don't challenge me.
We've been taking liberties with some of the years that these shows were on. I don't know. So this show actually was started in 1998. So I'm going to take 2 years of the 90s and I'm going to give it to this show. Will and Grace started in the late 90s, and which I think, as we were going back to talking about the family dynamic and how all of that was changing, this just took it to a whole other level. And the comedy, because sometimes comedy with me can be hit or miss. For me, just the relationship with the characters and all that was just amazing. Yes, it carried on through the 2000s, but I'm taking that liberty. I'm claiming it for the 90s.
Fair enough. Courtney?
My number 2 is Xena, the Warrior Princess. I never missed an episode. I loved that show. I've seen all 6 seasons. I have a Xena tattoo.
You win. Okay, you got it.
It's my show.
Okay, so we are going to do our honorable mentions right now. As always, with our honorable mentions, we are going to name them, and we cannot expound upon them. Skeeter, we cannot get in the car and drive around. You got to name it, and we got to go. Okay,
I'm good now. I finished my coffee.
So my honorable mentions are ECW TV, which was fantastic. Frasier, X-Men, the animated, Spider-Man the animated, Batman the animated, Power Rangers, Ren and Stimpy, 90210, Real World, Simpsons, and Mad TV. Skeeter, what?
All mine, rude.
I'm sorry.
And we're done.
Skeeter, what are yours, sir?
Let me grab my keys real quick. No, I'm just kidding. Take that. So, starting from the nowhere order general, The Wonder Years, Beavis and Butthead, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Animaniacs, the entire everything involved with the Animaniacs. Recess, The Tick, Tailspin, Doug, just because my name was in it. Boy Meets World, another love like triangle bad. Martin, and the animated series from the Warner Brothers universe that was ever made.
Fair enough. Michelle?
My list is really short. We're gonna go with Seinfeld. I already mentioned My So-Called Life. Unsolved Mysteries did start in the 80s, but late 80s and went all through 90s. Dawson's Creek, Frasier as well, ER, NYPD Blue. I know I can't expound about it, but I will put X-Files on my list for reasons that are known only to me. Because I can't say. Okay, so it's the music. It's the music. I should have said it when we were talking about the music, but if you listen to the X-Files music, amazing.
Very good.
That's all.
Courtney?
Most of mine are repeats. So Fresh Prince, 90210, Sliders, Family Matters, A Different World, Living Single, King of the Hill, Doug, Rugrats, Tiny Toons, Tailspin, Darkwing Duck, The Critic, Animaniacs, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, and then a British show called The Vicar of Dibley.
Nice. Okay.
And sorry for the repeats, guys.
No.
So let's do our number ones. And my number one was, it's a lot of 80s, but it was in the 90s as well. And honestly, this is a show that probably has as much impact to me personally as MASH does. And that would be Cheers. Top to bottom, such a perfect show. I mean, switched half the characters halfway through and still made it fantastic. And it was the same show the whole way through, and they just did such a great job about it. Skeeter, what is your number one?
My number one is always will be my guilty pleasure, just because a lot of people didn't like it, but I have the entire pop collection of Zach, Kelly, AC Slater, Screech, and the entire crew from Saved by the Bell. Oh. The entire everything. It was a horrible show. I probably have the phone in a box somewhere.
I had the phone.
we rocked the Z Cavaricis like champions.
Oh God!
Yes, I did.
Z Cavaricis.
Wow.
Patent leather shoes, silk rayon shirts. I mean, we did it. You know, Michelle probably remembers it from high school. But
and
I mean,
the hypercolor shirt. Yeah, I remember.
Hypercolor shirt. Please put your hand on my shirt. That was the best clothing ever, right?
And they lasted like literally 2 weeks.
Really bad idea for teenagers. Let me just
yeah.
Not if you're a girl with big boobs.
So Saved by the Bell. Just saying, it was
very good.
Yes,
Michelle.
My number one has become my number one recently, and because for some reason when I was younger I did not watch it. I think my younger self probably would not have liked it as much. So I started watching Twin Peaks, which came out in 1990. Yeah,
so much.
The craziest, weirdest, quirkiest, goofy. What the heck did I just see? Yeah, it's David Lynch, and like I said, teenage Michelle would have probably went, "This is really stupid and weird. I'm out." But yeah, no, I love it, and I can see why it's got like this giant cult following now. So
yeah, it's
my number one.
Nice.
Yeah,
good call. Good call.
Courtney.
So I am doing it started at the tail end of the 90s and went through the 2000s route for my number one. So thanks everybody who else did that. It's The West Wing, which is my all-time favorite show ever. I can binge it. I have binged it multiple times. It has arguably the best episode of television ever created in it, called episode 2 Cathedrals, where Martin Sheen just acts his face off. So, yep.
Very good.
Excellent.
And that is a show, guys. Thanks for joining me and going down nostalgia lane with us. Check out our YouTube and hit the like and subscribe and share it, and go to our website, www.iheartgeekshow.com. Use the column we paid extra for it. Go to our Patreon, get extra episodes and get extra stuff that's coming. Buy a shirt because they're cool. And until next time, I'm Dub. I'm here with Courtney. I'm here with Skeeter, and I'm here with Michelle. Keep on geeking on, guys.
You have been listening to the latest episode of the iHeart Geek Show. Make sure you visit our website at www.iheartgeekshow.com. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you check us out on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And keep on geeking on to all of you geek rock stars.